An aspiring pastor from North Carolina stabbed his wife to death in her sleep. A total of 123 stab wounds were found on the woman's body. The heartbroken widower blamed his cough medicine. In the early hours of September 1st, 2017, 30-year-old Matthew Phelps dialed 911. In a panic, he reported that he woke up covered in blood in his own bed. There was a knife nearby, and on the floor was the corpse of his wife. "I think I did it," the man said on the phone. Lauren Phelps, 29, was stabbed 123 times in the head, neck, torso, and arms. The preacher saw the bloody scene in his bedroom when he woke up from a nightmare. Before going to bed, Phelps had taken some medicine for a cold, but he had exceeded the recommended dose. This was his only explanation. According to him, only in an unconscious state could he take the life of his beloved wife. Representatives of the drug manufacturer said that the drug could not cause such an effect. However, it contains a substance that teenagers take to get high, and an overdose can cause hallucinations and delusions. The pastor was arrested on suspicion of murder. He was put in custody without the right to bail. The details of the case were not disclosed. Matthew Phelps's main line of defense in court was that he didn't remember anything. Drugged, he killed his wife while she slept. In the history of criminal defense, there are a number of cases of murderous somnambulism. And although some criminals were saved from prison by such protection, they nevertheless had to live with it. Somnambulism, or sleepwalking, is a sleep disorder. In this state, people can do absolutely anything: talk, cook, clean, drive, or even kill. Encouraging statistics from the National Sleep Foundation say that from 1 to 15% of the U.S. population sleeps regularly. Scientists distinguish between slow wave and REM sleep. The first is divided into 4 phases, among which there is deep sleep. It is followed by a fast stage, also called rapid eye movement, or REM sleep. It is specifically at this stage that problems begin to arise. Going from deep sleep to REM sleep, the human brain is activated to the max. The subconscious starts to work vigorously. It is then that we see especially colorful pictures and are able to remember them. The brain also has a fuse of sorts to prevent us acting out our dreams in reality. At the moment of transition from a deep stage to a fast stage, the limbs of a person are temporarily paralyzed. It may seem disconcerting, but this is how we stay in bed during REM sleep. Only not sleepwalkers. They have these processes occur without these mitigations in place. The reasons are endless, ranging anywhere from stress, lack of sleep, alcohol or drugs, to pregnancy, migraines, or even the need to empty one's bladder. Apparently this can happen. You get stressed out at work, you drink a little in the evening, and at night you have to go to the restroom. But instead of waking up and feeling better, you kill your wife as she sleeps. Fortunately, these are rare cases. In judicial practice, 68 cases of homicidal somnambulism have been registered. In some of them, such a defense was used as a cover for a deliberate crime, but in other cases, the accused person actually killed someone in a state of sleepwalking. The first precedent in American jurisprudence occurred back in 1846. The case of Albert Terrell has become legendary. A seemingly decent family man, Albert Terrell, along with his wife and 2 children, visited a brothel in Boston. There he spotted Maria Bickford. It is believed that Terrell fell in love with this brothel employee, and for her he left his family and moved to Boston. Maria reciprocated as best she could. There is even information that they lived together, but the girl still did not quit her job. On October 27, 1845, the owner of the brothel woke up just in time to notice and put out the fire in one of the rooms. And it was there that Maria Bickford lay with her throat slit. Terrell's cane was allegedly lying near the body, and he himself was seen in the brothel a few hours earlier. The fire started because the killer tried to burn the evidence. Parts of Albert's clothes allegedly remained in the fire. The murder weapon, a razor, was also at the crime scene. Be that as it may, Terrell hastily left for New Orleans, where he was arrested. Albert was defended by Rufus Choate, an innovator in the legal profession who carefully and skillfully twisted the law to save clients from prison. The lawyer stated that Terrell, firstly, had no real motive for the cold-blooded murder of Maria, and secondly, there were no witnesses to the crime, as well as any indisputable evidence. Then Choate made his main bet on something else. He told the jury that Terrell would sleepwalk from time to time. The man denied his guilt, so perhaps he really did not remember anything. The sleepwalker simply did not realize his actions, being in a state of sleepwalking madness. Rufus must have truly been a talented lawyer, as the court subsequently acquitted the accused. Terrell was found not guilty. And if you thought that this could only happen in 1846, then it is not so. The following inspiring statistic was provided by French scientists. In 2013, they carefully examined the behavior of 140 adults suffering from sleepwalking. Unexpectedly, the behavior of 58% of them in a state of somnambulism also turned out to be aggressive. At the same time, in more than 30% of cases, they harmed themselves, and in 46%, they did so to a person sleeping next to them. The researchers also found yet another detail. More often than not, those people who started walking in their sleep in childhood or adolescence turned out to be aggressive. Their behavior was mostly related to various fears. This data seems especially convincing against the background of the story of Kenneth Parks from Toronto. At night, the 23-year-old Kenneth, husband and father of a 5-month-old daughter, drove the car out of the garage and went 14 miles over to his wife's parents' house. Grabbing a tire iron and a kitchen knife, Parks entered the bedroom of Dennis and Barbara Woods. He killed the woman, but her husband managed to survive. Immediately after the attack, Kenneth went over to the nearest police station in bloody clothes, saying, "I think I just killed 2 people." He was arrested, and an investigation began. It turned out that Kenneth had a gambling addiction. He lost his family savings and then started stealing at work. The young father was caught and fired. Parks began to attend group meetings of anonymous gamblers and was going to tell his relatives about his problem. He planned to have this difficult conversation on May 24th, the day after the murder took place. Kenneth had no motive for such atrocity, just as he had no memory of what happened. During each of the 7 interrogations, he confidently repeated the same story, although the investigators did their best to confuse the subject. Then they added an electroencephalogram of his brain and the conclusion of 5 experts to the case. Everyone claimed that Parks was a sleepwalker and was in a state of automatism at the time of the murder. The man was acquitted of all charges. Somnambulism is not a mental illness and is defined as non-mad automatism. This is a condition in which the brain does not control its own body, but because of such cases, it has sometimes been proposed to classify it as a mental illness and at least send killers for medical treatment. It's unlikely many of them would actually welcome this. One, for example, might be Joseph Mitchell, who in 2010 strangled his 4-year-old son and also tried to kill his other 2 older children. Both the man and his lawyer claimed that the tragic incident was due to Joseph's sleepwalking. The sleepwalking-induced attack was said to have been caused by financial problems and lack of sleep. Granted, there was another version of the story as well. The other children, ages 13 and 10, said that their father recognized them when he tried to strangle them. Perhaps serious money problems pushed Mitchell to kill. The investigation lasted 4 years, during which Joseph was in custody. The jury's verdict ended up as not guilty, although some of the jury members did not think so. On one hand, there was enough evidence that the child was killed by Joseph. On the other hand, he was allegedly acting in his sleep. The jury wanted the man to suffer at least some sort of punishment, but the judge refused to consider this case as manslaughter. Joseph's wife, Christine Parolini, was carried away on a stretcher after the verdict was announced. Mitchell himself said that he hoped one day to restore relations with his ex-wife and children. In any case, he will have to live the rest of his life knowing that he killed his own son. 59-year-old Brian Thomas from Wales also experienced a similar kind of horror. He suffered from sleepwalking, other sleep disorders, and depression almost all his life. In 2010, on the eve of his 40th wedding anniversary, he and his wife decided to relax at their motorhome. The man did not take any antidepressants with him because they made him impotent. But it was not the love affairs that prevented Thomas from sleeping peacefully, but rather the nightmares. When the couple parked the van for the night, Brian had a dream that a guy broke in. Later, he told how he had clearly seen a man in blue jeans and a blue jacket leaning on his wife. Thomas grabbed the bastard by the throat. When he woke up, he realized that he had killed his wife, and so he called the police. The next 10 months of examinations and investigations proved that Brian often moved about in his sleep. At the time of the murder, he was in a state of automatism. Thomas was acquitted, but he can never forget what happened. Sleepwalking has been a controversial criminal defense ever since it was first used. And some criminals have actually tried to hide behind this disorder. For example, there's the case of Matthew Phelps. The young pastor dialed 911 himself and assumed he had killed his wife. But when the police came to him, they noted the first inconsistency. The crime scene looked too staged. For example, there were no bloodstains on Matthew's clothes, only a couple of drops on his shirt and shoes. A thorough investigation showed that the preacher had many dark secrets. Matthew regularly abused drugs and justified his actions by their effect. He had a secret Instagram profile dedicated to the movie American Psycho. Phelps's acquaintances recalled that he even spoke about the murders with interest. Matthew didn't get along well with his wife either. They fought a lot, especially in the final months leading up to the murder. The reasons behind all this included the woman's jealousy of her husband, his infidelity, his addiction to drugs, and his overall squandering. Phelps spent so much of their money that the family practically went bankrupt. Lauren threatened to leave if he didn't change. Matthew Phelps was charged with first-degree murder, which threatened him with the death penalty. At first, the preacher denied his guilt, but later admitted that he played the story with a night of delirium, so he negotiated a life sentence for himself without the right to parole. Scientists continue to study these cases of homicidal sleepwalking, but it's still not yet clear why exactly some people behave aggressively in this state, while others do not. The influence of negative emotions regarding the propensity of sleepwalkers to act violently has also not yet been proven. Due to the rarity of cases involving homicidal somnambulism, answers to these questions may never be found. What are your thoughts on these sleepwalking killers? Share your thoughts in the comments. Also, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe to the channel for more content like today's.